Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Got a few people still filing in. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 8th Annual National Healthcare Conference. I can't believe it's our 8th year. Yes, that's a round of applause, our 8th year. And we're very excited to be here. My name is Jennifer Ahern. I am the Chief Officer and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Environment, Culture and Housing, or as we affectionately refer to it in the Ministry of HEC. And I will be your chair for the conference. I want to welcome you all here and let you know that you are in for a fantastic few days. We have an awesome lineup of speakers, and I want to have you all just give a big round of applause, a big thank you to the CEO of the HSA, who's the chair of the Planning Committee, and all of the awesome Planning Committee members. Let's give them a big round of applause. We wouldn't have been here without them. Before we get started, a little housekeeping. If everyone can just make sure your phones are on silent or vibrate so that we don't interrupt and disturb anybody around us or any of the speakers. And we'll go ahead and we'll get started. The Honorable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. The Honorable Franz Manderson, Deputy Governor. Honorable Dwayne Seymour, Minister of Health, Environment, Culture and Housing. Honorable Roy McTaggart, Minister of Public Finance and Economic Development. We're also expecting Minister Joseph Hugh, who's the Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. We have Councillor Eugene Ebanks, who is our very own ministerial councillor with the Ministry of Health, Environment, Culture and Housing. We have Councillor David White, who covers both the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports and Lands. And Councillor Barbara Connolly will also be joining us from the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports and Lands. We're also expecting to see Member of the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. I also want to welcome the Chair of the Health Services Authority Board, Mr. Jonathan Tibbetts, and the CEO of the Health Services Authority, Ms. Lizette Yearwood. I want to welcome all of my colleagues, senior civil servants, and all of the members of the public and our healthcare practitioners. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we would not be able to continue to offer this conference free of charge. And as somebody said to me on the way in, I'd never miss anything that's free. So let's thank our cocktail reception sponsor, Ironshore Pharmaceuticals, our premium sponsors, BAF Insurance, the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, Cleveland Clinic, DART, Pinnacle Media, and Tower. I welcome you all. Big sponsors, round of applause. I want you to make sure that you visit all of our exhibitors. The exhibitors are really an important part of making this happen as well. We've got a health check station that's available. Starting tomorrow, you'll be able to get your annual flu shot, courtesy of the Health Services Authority. And as I was walking around earlier, there's some fantastic information and little giveaways out there. So please make sure to visit all of them and tell them thank you. Okay, so here we are in our 8th year. And every year we exceed expectations, Deputy Governor. That's one of his favorite sayings. Let's exceed expectations. And I'm really, really thrilled to tell you that again this year we have exceeded expectations and we have broken our record for registration numbers. And over the next 3 days, we're expecting over 1,300 people to take part in this conference. We have 14 speakers and panelists, 35 exhibitors, and nearly 50 sponsors and supporters, and they're all part of bringing this to you and bringing it to you free of charge. And speaking of free, we've got some free Wi-Fi on offer as well. You may have picked one of these up. Our Wi-Fi has been generously sponsored by Generali. The password is Generali, all lowercase, and this is one of the coolest things I've seen in a while. It says, "Plant this card." So our ministry is also responsible for waste management. So I think recycling and reusing is really cool too. So this is a 100% recycled handmade paper that's embedded with garden seeds. So when you're finished using the free Wi-Fi, you can go home and plant it. All right, so with no further ado, let's start the show. Our first speaker tonight is the Honorable Premier Alden McLaughlin, MBE, JP, and Premier of the Cayman Islands. He was first elected to the Legislative Assembly in 2000 and has been a legislator ever since. He served as Minister of Education, Training, Employment, Youth, Sports, and Culture from 2005 to 2009. And under his leadership, the ministry was responsible for the creation of the new Education Modernization Law and piloted its passage through the Legislative Assembly in early 2009. This new law raised the mandatory age for school attendance from 16 to 17 and set in place the framework for what's now being called the Year 12 program in the government high school system. Mr. McLaughlin has repeatedly led national discussions regarding constitutional change, as well as the negotiations with the UK government. The eventual outcome was a new constitution, which was approved in the country's first referendum held to coincide with the elections in May 2009. For his contribution to constitutional development in the Cayman Islands, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II awarded an MBE in the Queen's Birthday Honours in 2010. He has served as a member of many professional and civic associations and committees, too numerous to list. Notably, he was a long-standing member of the Grand Court Rules Committee and has served as president of the Caymanian Bar Association and president of the Lions Club of Grand Cayman. Mr. McLaughlin was born and grew up in Georgetown, Grand Cayman. Following employment as a civil servant, he joined a local law firm where he was quickly promoted through the ranks and made partner in 1993. He retired from the firm in 2005, following his re-election and first appointment as a cabinet minister. The Premier, I have to say, is also our former Minister of Health, an incredibly avid cyclist, and I'm really glad that he's been able to join us again tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Honorable Premier.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer, for that historical account. I wish you wouldn't read it. It makes me seem older than I am. But welcome, everyone, to this 8th Annual Cayman Islands Healthcare Conference. I am happy to see that each year the conference gets bigger and better, and I just love those numbers. They do wonders for tourism. I'd also like to take this opportunity to personally thank our generous sponsors, as Jennifer did, for your continued commitment and support. I also want to thank the current Minister of Health, the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, and his Chief Officer, Jennifer Ahern, and everyone who has been involved in organizing this event. And I also thank and welcome our local and international healthcare providers and presenters who are sharing your time with us over the course of this week. To those of you attending this conference from overseas, whilst I know you have a packed agenda, I hope you can find some time to enjoy all that we have to offer, from our pristine beaches to our wonderful people. As the former health minister, and also someone who watches what and how much I eat, try to exercise regularly and whenever possible lead a healthy life, if that's possible in politics. The topics of this year's conference are very near and dear to my heart. As my father often says, far too many of us are digging our graves with our teeth. And it's true, we are what we eat. Over the next 2 days, you will explore the relationship between nutrition and health. A key theme throughout the conference will be the topic of healthy eating, particularly for children, both at home and at school. Extra weight and obesity in youngsters are among the greatest risks to children's long and short-term health. Overweight children are prone to becoming overweight grown-ups and therefore are more prone to heart diseases, cancer, diabetes, stroke, and osteoarthritis. There will be a strong focus on establishing healthy eating habits from an early age to show how we can each take action to prevent some of the health issues that affect so many in our community. This all echoes what I said when I recently presented the strategic policy statement to the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly back in August, which sets out government policies over the course of the next couple of years. And the statement pointed out that more needs to be done, and government will be doing more to prevent health problems arising in the first place. Too many people in our communities are dying prematurely or have to live with long-term preventable conditions. I, along with the Minister of Health, committed to renew our efforts to public health programs and to promoting healthy lifestyles among our people. But perhaps the best opportunities for change lie with teaching our children at an early age the value of healthy food choices and encouraging a love for physical activity. This conference is not just for healthcare professionals. There's literally something for everyone, and we hope that at the end of these 2 days, everyone will walk away with something that you can take on board to help you live a healthier life. Again, thanks to everyone for attending. And again, I'd also like to recognize our sponsors who are helping us to achieve our main mission, which is to reach out to as many residents as possible to offer them solutions to improve their health and well-being. I thank you all for your attention. Have a wonderful conference.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier, and good evening, Minister Hugh. Thank you for joining us, Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. Our next speaker tonight is the Honourable Franz Manderson, the Deputy Governor. He joined the Cayman Islands Civil Service in 1981 as an hourly paid worker with the Immigration Department. He was promoted up the ranks of the department and was appointed Chief Immigration Officer in July 2004. During Mr. Manderson's tenure with the Immigration Department, he received many awards, including the Certificate and Badge of Honor for services rendered in the management of Cuban migrants in the Cayman Islands, the Governor's Face Awards for excellence in customer service, and he was the Person of the Year in 2006 in Cayman Net News. Mr. Manderson is an attorney at law, having completed his legal studies at the University of Liverpool, and he was called to the Cayman Islands Bar in July 2004. He was appointed a Justice of the Peace in 2008. In July 2009, Mr. Manderson was promoted to the post of Deputy Chief Secretary in the portfolio of Internal and External Affairs. In the portfolio, he was responsible for an annual budget of approximately $70 million and over 800 staff. And in 2012, the United Kingdom Secretary of State, in consultation with the Governor of the Cayman Islands, approved the appointment of Mr. Manderson as the Deputy Governor and Head of the Civil Service. Mr. Manderson is responsible for the management and performance of the Civil Service, which has a budget of over $500 million and approximately 3,500 staff. He is a member of Cabinet and is the first official member of the Legislative Assembly. Mr. Manderson is married to Nuvia and has 2 children, Alyssa, age 25, and Franz Jr., age 20. The Deputy Governor is also one of those people who walks the walk and talks the talk. He's made a lot of strides, if you'll pardon the pun, in promoting wellness and healthy habits within the civil service. So I'm really, really grateful, Mr. Manderson, the Deputy Governor, that you're able to join us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Deputy Governor.
Good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, and thank you, Ms. Ahern. I got to say that I'm really looking forward to hearing from our guest speaker, because I really need to know for certain whether I can drink milk or not. I've been getting all of these texts and emails telling me that I should not be drinking milk. And, I like to have my milk with my small cup of Frosted Flakes. I don't think you would approve the Frosted Flakes, but I really need to know about my milk. I'm not going to say anything about the curry-goat that I had for lunch. Okay. But I joined the Premier in welcoming you to our healthcare conference. It's a pleasure for me to be here to open the conference on behalf of Her Excellency the Governor, Ms. Helen Kilpatrick, who is unable to be here, but she sends her apologies. There are so many reasons why this conference is particularly important to us here today. I believe the event plays a vital part in helping the Cayman community as a whole to focus on how we can look after our own health and that of our families. Last year's conference, as Ms. Ahern said, drew over 900 delegates from the Cayman Islands and overseas, making this event a central focus point for the region. The size of our annual healthcare conference and the impressive list of distinguished local and international speakers who are leaders in their respective field and who will be presenting to us over the next 3 days underscore the high esteem in which this conference is held. The fact that there are so many stakeholders involved in the production of this conference also highlights the wide-reaching effects this conference has on many parts of our community. Government, not-for-profit organizations, the public and private medical community, and members of the general public have all come together to ensure that our healthcare conference is a success. I personally believe it is a truly important event because healthcare is something which we all need to take responsibility for. Whether it's our own healthcare or that of our families, we need to take heed of all the information available and act upon it, incorporating all the good advice, including the milk, into our daily routines. As a personal example, the 2013 conference that focused on workplace wellness inspired us in the civil service to establish a walk-run club, which was created to allow civil servants to focus on their health. And from that, we have the annual Deputy Governor's 5K Challenge, which is a run-walk event that just this year, we had over 1,900 persons participate. And Ms. Ahern beat me again this year. For this year's healthcare conference, the theme, Food for Thought, exploring the relationship between nutrition and health, is for a great importance as the decisions that we make on a daily basis when feeding ourselves and our families can have a great impact on the health and well-being of our population. Educating ourselves on how to fuel our bodies is of vital importance to prevent health issues and help us all to live the very best lives that we can. I very much look forward to this conference every year and try to attend as many sessions as possible. I encourage all delegates to do the same and to really get the most out of the presentations by remembering that we are here not just to listen, but to actively participate, ask questions, take your notes, and think about how you can make a change in your life. The fantastic lineup of speakers, along with the informative and interactive breakout sessions, is sure to leave you all with some great actionable takeaways to incorporate into your daily routine. I want to thank all of you very much for coming, and I want to wish you a most enjoyable conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Governor. There's a few seats available in the very front row up here. It does say reserved, but I think we can offer those up if somebody wants to come. There's some people standing at the back. And there's a couple of seats here in the second row as well. Okay, so next we have the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, who is the Minister of Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing, and he's joining us tonight with some opening remarks. Dwayne John Seymour is a son of the soil who grew up in Gun Square in central Bodentown. Minister Seymour began working at the age of 7 in Bodentown, and his values of hard work and dedication to the community developed from those early years. Since then, Mr. Seymour has devoted his life to serving the community with a particular focus on the island's youth. He has been involved with the Bodentown Football Club for some 30 years as a manager, coach, captain, player, and vice president. He's also served as deputy chairman on the Bodentown Heritage Pirates Week Committee, and he organized and sponsored the Be Loud, Be Proud to get the vote out in 2009 and served as chairman of the Youth Parliament, for which he historically led the sessions annually for 4 consecutive years. He also staged the program for up-and-coming musicians called Exposure to hone the talents of rising stars. And in addition, he has enjoyed mentoring students at John Gray High School on Grand Cayman and the Lehman E. Scott High School in Cayman Brac. Mr. Seymour has 32 years of experience in the aviation industry, including airline security, and he was the Cayman Airways Regional and International Airport Manager and served as the Project Manager for Customer Service Development and Training. He is a certified Level 5 security trainer and an aviation security consultant and IATA certified. He has been a businessman for the last 17 years. Mr. Seymour has served on a number of boards, including the Prisons Inspection Board, the Airport Operators Committee, the Security Companies Accreditation Steering Group, the Caymanian Status and Permanent Residency Immigration Board, the Health Insurance Commission, and the Chamber of Commerce Expo Board. This is his second term in office, having been a member of the Legislative Assembly from 2009 to 2013, also serving as Minister for Community Affairs, Gender, and Housing. Mr. Seymour is married and has 6 children, and he's a member of the Webster Memorial United Church in Boddentown. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Minister Dwayne Seymour.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When the chief officer told me the theme, food for thought, I took it personal. And I thought I should try to lose some weight before the conference. But Cabinet and caucus, they served turtle and oxtail. Didn't happen. I am delighted to welcome each of you to the 8th Annual Cayman Islands Healthcare Conference. Before I continue, I must identify and recognize the former Minister of Health who actually started this conference, Mr. Mark Scotland. Give him a round of applause. Yeah. Also want you to help me make my daughter feel comfortable. She's only 14 years old, and I dragged her here so she could listen to the Foodie Physician. Give her a round of applause. Tahiti. Yes. Yeah. I'd like to personally and warmly welcome you to the Cayman Islands, all of our overseas visitors, whether speakers, sponsors, or delegates. This conference continues to grow year after year. I am delighted to share with you that in excess of 1,200 people have registered for this year's conference over the 3 days. I believe that this is a testament to the quality of this event, the relevance of the themes chosen each year, and the world-class speakers that the conference committee is able to attract, but also in large part due to the eagerness of the healthcare professionals and the wider community to learn how we can become a healthier nation together. This is indeed a conference for everyone, politicians and government officials, families and community workers, employers and teachers and medical professionals and healthcare workers. This theme, Food for Thought, exploring the relationship between nutrition and health, is of importance to all of these groups as we seek to explore the relationship between what we eat and how it can affect our health, as well as benefits of educating the community and making better choices and taking control of their health and wellness through better nutrition. I must add that I'm also exploring the relationship between marriage and weight gain. So hopefully one of the speakers will speak on that. By bringing together experts from a variety of disciplines, we aim to provide our local medical and healthcare professionals the opportunity to improve and develop their knowledge of nutrition and its implications on health, ultimately encouraging their patients to maintain healthy lifestyles. This conference also offers a wealth of knowledge to members of the wider community to educate themselves on ways to utilize food to support the health and wellness of themselves and their families. We also hope to dispel the many myths that tend to surround the topic of healthy eating and to provide practical and actionable information that we can benefit from as individuals, families, community groups, and as a country. And yes, I believe, Deputy Governor, you can drink milk. This is my first healthcare conference. I've cleared my calendar for the next 3 days, and I'm very much looking forward to being informed, to listen, learn, discuss, and debate this important topic with all of you. As a relatively new Minister for Health, I am also very much looking forward to meeting as many of you as I can, and in particular in spending time with the 40 or so exhibitors that are with us. It's going to be a busy 3 days. To our many sponsors, a big thank you for helping making this important community event happen. We could not do it without you. Having such strong sponsorship support means we're able to offer attendance to the conference free of charge, resulting each year in us being able to fulfill our main mission, which is to reach out to as many of the residents of these islands as possible and offer them solutions to improve their health and well-being. To our knowledgeable healthcare professionals who are speakers and panelists, both local and international, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to help us promote healthcare and healthy living in the Cayman Islands. Your input is invaluable and is appreciated. And to all the attendees here today, thank you for making the effort to come and learn about how you can ensure a healthy future for yourselves and your loved ones through an improved relationship with food and nutrition. I dare say, I really don't need a better relationship with food. As many of you will know, each year the Conference Planning Committee surveys conference delegates and potential topics for the next year. Through these surveys, the committee found that while the topic of nutrition was touched on at some level at each of these previous 7 conferences, whether the event was focused on workplace wellness, chronic non-communicable diseases, or wellness through the ages, that was high time for an entire conference to be focused on this important building block of health and wellness. It is a sad fact that many of us will have been personally affected in some way by a chronic disease, such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, mental health, respiratory disease, and obesity. Studies by the World Health Organization have found that common preventable risk factors underlie most CNCDs. The leading risk factor globally are raised blood pressure, tobacco use, raised blood glucose, physical inactivity, and being overweight or obese, all of which can lead to disability or death. Children, adults, and the elderly are vulnerable to the risk factors that contribute to non-communicable diseases, whether that's physical inactivity, exposure to tobacco smoke, the effects of the harmful use of alcohol, and in particular from unhealthy diets. Unfortunately, we know that many Caymanians are leading unhealthy lifestyles. We smoke, we are overweight, sometimes even obese, and we are not getting a recommended amount of fruit and vegetable. Many of us are on a never-ending search for a magic solution to weight loss. Others are using food to mask anxiety and depression, while others simply don't have the information they need to make smart nutritional choices. We need to change that. Of particular concern in the fact that far too many of our children are overweight or obese. Based on annual health screenings, our children on children in transition from lower to middle school, a survey found that 22% of our school children are overweight, an additional 15% were deemed at risk becoming overweight. In addition, among school children, there are indicators of high levels of obesity. Such risk factors within the school population are a predictor for the future development of the CNCDs in the Cayman Islands. We cannot allow this trend to continue. This is why we are here today, to see how we can prevent our adult and youth populations from developing or continuing bad nutritional habits, leading to serious health issues. As a result, it is our goal to ensure that this conference is as informative and educational as possible, not only for the medical community, but for the general public as well. Over the next 3 days, we will be hearing from some well-respected local and international speakers who are experts in their field and will be aiming to educate us all on how we can improve our own health through diet and nutrition. Tonight, we will hear from the Foodie Physician, Dr. Sonali Ruder, who, as well as being a trained chef and a cookbook author, is also an emergency room physician. Dr. Ruder will be taking us through the ways that we can all improve our health through better nutrition at every stage in our lives. Tomorrow morning, we welcome back Dr. Wale Borsam, president of Cleveland Clinic, Florida, who gave a very engaging presentation at this conference last year. Dr. Borsam will set the scene for the day by giving us an overview on how our daily choices have a significant impact on our health and well-being. A key topic on the agenda tomorrow will be the subject of cancer, and this will begin with Dr. Troy Gatcliffe of Baptist Health, South Florida's Miami Cancer Institute, delving into the link between diet, obesity, and cancer. From there, the topic will turn to food education with Louise Fitzroy, founder of From Paddock to Plate, talking about in-school programs and some of the farm-to-table initiatives that she has been involved in locally. Dr. Camille Williams' presentation will be of great relevance to any of you who have loved ones that have been impacted by cancer or undergone cancer treatment yourselves. Dr. Williams will be addressing best health practice before and during cancer treatments and the relationship between nutrition, health, and cancer treatment outcomes. There are certainly a lot of facts and myths around this year's conference theme. Dr. Ravi Kishore of Health City Cayman Islands will be discussing some of the top facts and myths as they relate to heart disease and nutrition, as well as exploring the evidence for the ideal cardiac diet. Tomorrow afternoon will feature panel discussions, which I am very much looking forward to, as it's sure to be an interesting and interactive conversation surrounding diet facts and myths. Our panelists, Dr. Sonali Ruder, Dr. Ginny Hobday, Dr. Scott David, Dr. Keelan Fox, and Tamara Worms-Riley, will each be sharing top myths and facts from their unique perspectives, and there will be plenty of opportunities for questions and answers, so do come prepared to get involved. The day tomorrow will round off with 2 interactive breakout sessions under the theme Nutrition in Action. Brian Critchlow of the Department of Agriculture will be presenting on the farm-to-table movement and the benefits of local produce, followed by a demonstration and sampling session with Ritz-Carlton chefs. In the other session, Maureen Cubbon and Cynthia Hugh of Bon Vivant will be teaching us how we can introduce healthier eating and we'll be showcasing a simple, healthy recipe that you will get a chance to sample at the end of their session. On Saturday morning, the focus will be on mental health with Dr. Lily Wagner of Infinite Mind Care, opening the day with a look at health and nutritional psychology and how nutrition plays a role in our mood, behavior, and cognition. Dr. Kelia Bodden will continue on the mental health theme with her presentation under the title Junk Food, Fun Food, or Toxic Temptress. Sounds like me. Helping us all to master the psychological draw of junk food and find a healthy balance in our diet. Last but not least, Maureen Cobbin of Best Life will be discussing the Cayman food revolution with a particular focus on childhood obesity and heart health, both of which are critical challenges that need to be addressed in our community. On behalf of the members of the conference, planning committee, and the ministry, we offer our sincere thanks to all of our speakers. We are extremely grateful to you all for recognizing the importance of events such as these and offering your participation to ensure its success. This conference is truly a collaborative affair. The commitment shown by the public sector, the private sector, and the charitable organizations is evidence that we can all agree that we must take a collective responsibility in dealing with the health care of our nation, starting with a thorough examination of the relationship between food and our health. It is my sincere hope that every attendee, myself included, will leave this conference with information that they can put into practice both at work and at home to ensure the well-being of themselves and those around them. I wish you all a wonderful and productive conference. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We do have some seats that are available in the middle of the rows, so I don't know the best way to get people into them, but there are some. Can you just, if you have a seat next to you, an empty seat, can you hold your hand up? We do have a few people waiting to find seats. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Well, we'll fill those in as we go. So thanks very much, Minister Seymour. And our next speaker is Dr. Wilbert Veit, who is the president of the Cayman Islands Medical and Dental Society. He's been a practicing dentist for 43 years. His training at Fairleigh Dickinson School of Dentistry in New Jersey, USA, stressed preventative dentistry, as well as the art and science of saving and preserving natural teeth. Therefore, over the years, Dr. Veit has helped thousands of people to prevent and overcome dental problems and fears so they can enjoy and chew their food properly, have attractive smiles, and enjoy the many benefits of good oral health. Upon graduating from dental school in 1974, he practiced in New York City for a year before starting his own private dental practice on the Jersey Shore in Ocean County, New Jersey, where he practiced for 27 years. Then in 2002, lured here by scuba diving, he moved to Grand Cayman and has been at Dr. Wolf's Dental Center ever since then. Outside of the office, Dr. Veit enjoys scuba diving and gardening with his wife, Riza, and playing with his precocious 4-year-old daughter, Kanla, who is teaching him the basics of the iPad. Ever since his childhood, he's had a strong interest in the natural sciences. Before entering dental school, he majored in biology and graduated with honors from Western Maryland College. Because of his fascination for nature, he's authored 2 educational science fiction novels dealing with the biochemistry of photosynthesis. Both can be downloaded from Amazon and are entitled The Music of Sunlight and Back to Plantonia. His favorite Cayman fruits are mango, naseberry, sweet sop, banana, passion fruit, breadfruit, and of course, ackee, which is his egg substitute since he's been vegetarian for the past 19 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Wilbert Veit.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ahern, politicians, administrators, doctors, dentists, health practitioners, dear patients, and Caymanians. Yeah, food for thought is the theme, and what I think that we need to do is think about what we put in our mouth, chew and swallow, and it becomes part of us. I can't think of any more intimate relationship other than breathing the air than what we eat. And I can tell you that I've had some pretty intimate relationships with sweet sops over the past few months. The human body is, as far as we know, the most miraculous machine in the universe. Any machine as complex as the human body, if it were an automobile, we would want to put the correct oil in, the correct fuel. We would take very good care and be careful what we put into that machine. The human body is so much more complex than that. We have to be, if we value the miraculous gift of human life, be very conscious of what we put into it because it becomes us. I'm also, just want to say I'm very honored and proud to be representing the Medical Dental Society, all the many very committed and intelligent doctors and dentists. Any physician or dentist who's licensed in Cayman is always invited to join us. We are involved very much with continuing education, liaising with the government, various issues, and basically also networking so that we all kind of share information and keep in touch with everyone. So all physicians and dentists are invited. Regarding dentistry, which is my expertise, just want to give a couple of pointers. Many people do not understand that one of the most common chronic diseases of mankind is tooth decay or dental caries. And it is a bacterial invasion of the teeth, but it's also intimately connected with diet. The more frequently that sugar is on the teeth, the more chance that a person has of getting tooth decay. This is what we're dealing with every single day in our practice, people coming in with holes in their teeth. Some of the holes are not visible and they show up on x-rays. But with every exposure of sugar, these certain bacteria absorb the sugar and through fermentation produce acid for 20 minutes. So the most important thing that everyone should understand is that's the frequency of exposure that's really very important. We need to have teeth. It's part of the digestive process. The mashing up of the food in the mouth, the digestion begins in the mouth. The enzymes are released in the saliva. So the digestion is already beginning in the mouth, which is the grand gateway into the alimentary canal and the digestion, as everybody knows. The other point that I want to make is many people are not aware of the fact, the problem that seems to be very common here is baby bottle syndrome. And even toddlers and babies who have teeth, if they're crying and they can't sleep, please, please do not put them to sleep with a bottle of anything other than water. Because we see this very commonly, young toddlers who have rampant tooth decay, which is kind of frightening because the only way that often they can be treated is with general anesthesia. Really the thing with that is prevention. And it may be difficult as parents, but we have to be kind of strict for their own good from the age of toddler all the way up. That's about it. Be sure and take seriously the health of your teeth and your mouth. It's not only teeth that we need to prevent toothaches. How many out there have ever had a toothache? It's not a pleasant experience. If it goes farther, if the pulp dies and an abscess develops, it can even be life-threatening. So it's quite a serious thing. I think that's about it. Once again, thanks for giving me a few minutes to speak my mind, and have a great educational experience over the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Veit. The first time I met Dr. Veit, he explained to me that it would be very easy to remember how to pronounce his surname because it rhymed with bite. Next up, we have our keynote speaker tonight. It's Dr. Sonali Ruder. And I think I brought the wrong page up. Hold on, there we go. Dr. Sonali Ruder is also known as the Foodie Physician. She's a board-certified emergency medical physician, trained chef, mom, recipe developer, and cookbook author. She's also a lifelong New Yorker who recently relocated to sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Sonali developed an interest in cooking during her residency training in emergency medicine in New York City. After several years of experimenting in her kitchen and competing in cooking competitions, she decided to take her passion one step further and enrolled in culinary school. While she was a student, she started a blog using her medical and culinary backgrounds to help readers create meals that are nutritious and full of flavor. After treating patients with chronic diseases in the emergency room every day for many years, Sonali developed an interest in the role that food and diet can play in preventing disease. Instead of simply writing a prescription, she started counseling patients on ways they could take control of their health through dietary and lifestyle changes. She believes that food, medicine, health, and wellness are all integrally related. And despite our fascination with diets, diet products, and weight loss, we as a society are getting heavier and unhealthier, with rates of obesity and obesity-related conditions continually on the rise. Of particular concern is that we're seeing these conditions in younger and younger people and even children. And more than a third of American children and adolescents are overweight or obese. Following a well-balanced, fulfilling lifestyle can help prevent many conditions like obesity, hypertension, and heart disease, and put you on to the next page that I've forgotten to bring up. On the path to lifelong good health. You can take control over your own health and well-being. It's important to know what you're eating and how to prepare high-quality meals so that you can make smart food choices all day long. So ladies and gentlemen, tonight our keynote speaker, speaking on healthy eating through the different life stages, is Dr. Sonali Ruder, the Foodie Physician. Please join me in welcoming her.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Ms. Ahern, for that lovely introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to first express my sincere thanks to the Cayman Islands Ministry of Health and also to the Event Planning Committee for inviting me to speak at this wonderful event. It's truly an honor to be here, and my family is here joining me tonight as well. So when I heard that the theme for this year's conference was Food for Thought, exploring the relationship between nutrition and health, my first thought was, okay, I got this. You see, I've been exploring the relationship between food, nutrition, and health for quite some time now. It's pretty much my passion. And that passion originally drove me to medical school many years ago. I don't want to say how many years. And then more recently, it actually drove me to culinary school. And most recently, that passion has driven me to nutrition school. And now I'm very happy to be here today sharing some of the things I've learned along the way with all of you. I do have to apologize in advance before I start, though, if you haven't eaten, because I have more than a few slides with delicious food pictures in my presentation. And yes, Deputy Governor, you can drink your milk. The Frosted Flakes, I'm not so sure about, though, so we'll talk about that afterwards. Okay, so the title of my talk is Healthy Eating Through the Different Stages of Life. So first of all, just to let you know a little bit more about myself, my medical background. I'm from New York. I did my emergency medicine residency at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, which is in New York City on the west side of Manhattan. And after I finished residency, I went on to do an emergency ultrasound fellowship at Jacobi Medical Center, which is in the Bronx, a big level 1 trauma center. And I stayed there for 7 years. I was the director of emergency ultrasound, and I worked in the ER. Then in 2013, I moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and that's where I live now with my husband and daughter. And I'm an emergency room physician at Broward Health Coral Springs. And I'm actually also currently obtaining my certificate for nutrition science for health professionals from Tufts University. So I developed a passion for cooking really when I was doing my medical training, my residency training. And one day, completely on a whim, I entered a cooking competition on the Food Network. And out of thousands of entrants, to my surprise, I was actually chosen as a finalist. And they flew me out to LA and I competed on a cooking show. And unfortunately, I didn't win, but it definitely sparked an interest in me. And after that, for several years, I basically entered a lot of cooking competitions. And I got to travel all around the country, competing in competitions. I got to meet a lot of famous chefs, and it was definitely a lot of fun. And then in 2009, I decided I wanted to learn more about the actual fundamentals of cooking. So I decided to enroll in culinary school at the Institute of Culinary Education. So for a year, I worked in the ER during the day, and then I went to culinary school at night. And at the end of school, I did my internship in the test kitchen at Every Day with Rachel Ray magazine, which was a wonderful experience. And then at the end of culinary school, I actually represented my school in a big culinary competition, and I competed against other students, and I ended up winning the grand prize, and that ended up paying my tuition for culinary school. So basically, that's when the Foodie Physician was born, and I have to give my husband credit for coming up with that name. That's just a picture of the homepage of my website. And I started my blog, The Foodie Physician, when I was a culinary student. And this is basically where I post all of my recipes that are nutritious and full of flavor. And I also am a recipe developer for several magazines and companies. And I've written several cookbooks, including a pregnancy cookbook and a baby food cookbook. And I also do regular healthy cooking segments on the local news in South Florida. So what are my goals? My goals are to give people the confidence and the tools to take control of their health starting in the kitchen. I want people to cook more at home because that's really one of the best ways to eat a healthy diet is to cook. I want people to cook with their kids. It's fun and it will put them on the path to lifelong good health. And I believe that healthy food can and should be delicious. So how did I go from ER doc to the Foodie Physician? Basically, I've been treating patients every day in the ER for many years with chronic diseases, and after a while, I basically got tired of just writing prescriptions. And I started becoming more interested in what we can do to prevent these diseases before they even begin, or even reverse them using diet and lifestyle modification. So now for some scary statistics, many of these you've probably heard. About 1/2 of American adults have one or more preventable chronic diseases, CNCDs, like heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, and obesity. 7 of the top 10 causes of death in 2014 were chronic diseases, with 2 of them, heart disease and cancer, making up about half. And unfortunately, many of these are related to poor quality eating patterns and physical inactivity. Now, these are American statistics, but it's pretty much the same in the Caribbean. And this is actually a slide I borrowed from Dr. Hospitalis' lecture from last year because he had some excellent slides. NCDs are the #1 killer here as well. And as you can see, again, cardiovascular disease and cancer are the top 2, just like in the US. So let's talk about healthcare spending. The US spends significantly more money on healthcare than any other nation in the world. More than 75% of our healthcare is spent on people with chronic conditions. In 2008, the medical costs linked to obesity were estimated to be $147 billion. In 2012, estimated costs just for diabetes alone was $245 billion. And if things keep going the way they are, by the year 2050, the CDC predicts that 1 in 3 Americans will have diabetes. And this is not just an American problem. Diet-related diseases have jumped beyond American borders, and they're on the rise all around the world as countries grow wealthier and Western-style food consumption rises. So if the challenge of the 20th century was to turn the tide against infectious diseases like cholera, smallpox, typhus, and yellow fever, surely the challenge of the 21st century will be to turn the tide against CNCDs. And yet, despite significant increases in healthcare spending, obesity and obesity-related conditions are still on the rise. 69% of Americans are overweight. That's a huge number. 36% are obese. And as we know, obesity increases the risk of many health problems: heart disease, diabetes, some cancers, and premature death. And once again, this is not just a problem in the US. These are some stats from the Caribbean. Percentage of overweight and obese patients. And in the Caymans, you're right about in the middle. About 70% of people here are overweight. In terms of obesity, about 30% of men, about 45% of women are obese. And this is the thing that bothers me the most now that I'm a mother myself. About 1 out of every 3 children in the US are either overweight or obese. And this is putting them at higher risk for chronic conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. These are conditions that we classically think of as adult conditions. Just a couple of decades ago, type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes, but it's not called that anymore because we're seeing it in younger and younger kids. And the adverse effects tend to persist through the lifespan. Overweight teenagers have a 70% chance of becoming overweight or obese adults. So why is this? We're going to get into this more a little bit later, but basically it's a combination of eating the wrong types of foods and a lack of physical activity. So let's talk about the changing food environment, because it has changed dramatically over the past 40 years. Basically, foods available for consumption has increased in all major categories over the past 40 years, with the greatest increase being in processed food. So what that means is there's just a lot more food available at the market, at the stores, at restaurants. And our daily calorie consumption has increased by 25% in the past 40 years. So not only is there more food available, we're also eating a lot more. We're also eating a lot more out of the house. 50% of the money we spend on food is on food that's prepared outside of the home. Portion sizes have increased. And research has shown that when larger portion sizes are served, people consume more calories. This is just a little graphic to show you the change in portion size. Typical hamburger, french fries, and soda from the 1960s to 2011. I mean, you can see with the whole supersizing trend how much the portion sizes have increased over the years. And the thing with restaurant food is that it can be high in calories and is full of hidden fat, sodium, and sugar. You don't really know what you're eating. Evidence shows that when children and adults eat out, particularly at fast food restaurants, they're at increased risk of weight gain and obesity. So that's why one of my biggest healthy cooking tips when people ask me is always to cook at home, because you know exactly what's going into your food. So let's talk about nutrition labeling for a minute. In the US, we have a nutrition facts panel that is listed on most packaged foods that you'll find at the grocery store. And what I learned, though, from researching for this presentation is that nutrition labeling policies actually vary a lot internationally. For example, in the Caribbean, I learned that there's no mandatory nutrition labeling of foods unless foods that are processed here, unless it's actually being exported out of the country. So this is an example of a nutrition label that you'll find on packaged foods at the grocery store. The one on the left is a label that we've been using for many years, and the one on the right is actually a new label that's out now. And they've made a couple of changes to improve it. You can see the most obvious change is the serving size and the calories are larger and in bold, so people can see that clearly. And also there's a new category now for added sugars, which was never there before, and that's because people are realizing what a big problem added sugars are. In the past, the policies on on labeling for packaged foods didn't include foods sold in restaurants, but there actually is a new law that's going to require that chain restaurants and some vending machines also display the calorie information on their menus. So this is an example. These are two very well-known fast foods. It's McDonald's and Subway, and you can see, for example, under the meal here, it has a number of calories listed here, and then here on the Subway menu has a number of calories listed there. So some studies show that people order meals with fewer calories when the calorie information is visible. I know that's the case with me when I can see the calories. I usually will choose a healthier option. The other good thing about menu labeling is it actually encourages the companies to reformulate their products and introduce healthier options, because now people are going to be able to see what they're eating. So what are these poor dietary choices that we're making that are leading to all these chronic diseases? Well, just to give you a few examples, in 2015, more than 37% of adolescents and 40% of adults said that they ate fruit less than once a day. 39% of adolescents and 22% of adults said they ate vegetables less than once a day. About 90% of Americans consume way too much sodium, and about 2/3 of American youth and half of adults consume at least one sugar-sweetened beverage a day. So this is just a little graphic to show you dietary intakes compared to recommendations. And basically, just to summarize this for you, if the bar, for each group, if the bar is mostly on the left of the screen, that means we're not getting enough of these foods. And if it's mostly on the right of the screen, that means we're getting enough or too much. So basically, we're not getting enough vegetables, dairy, fruit, and we're getting too much added sugars, saturated fats, and sodium. So once again, to summarize, we consume too many foods that are high in added fats and oils, added sugars and sweeteners, sodium, and grains. And I put a star next to grains because we're getting more than enough grains, but we're not getting the right grains, which are whole grains. And I'll talk about that a little bit. We are consuming too few foods that are nutrient dense. And these are things like fruits, vegetables, seafood, and low-fat dairy products. And what's the other half of this equation? Physical inactivity. Americans spend most of their waking hours engaged in sedentary behaviors. You know, we get in our cars and we drive to work, we sit at a desk all day, we get in our cars, we drive home, we sit on the couch and watch TV. In 2015, 50% of adults didn't meet the recommendations for aerobic physical activity. And once again, this is a thing that concerns me even more. We're seeing the same trends now in children. Only 1 in 3 children are physically active each day. Today's children are 4 times less active than their grandparents were. And this is a big one. I put this in bold because I think this is so important. Children and teenagers spend more than 7 hours per day using TVs, computers, phones, and other electronic devices. They're not getting out and playing anymore. And I know many of us in this room probably didn't grow up with cell phones and laptops and iPads, but this is the way of the future. So clearly, fighting the obesity epidemic is a difficult challenge. It requires a multifaceted approach at many different levels. But the good news is that good nutrition, increasing physical activity, and modifying certain lifestyle behaviors, for example, quitting smoking, can help lower your risk for many chronic diseases. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to educate people? Well, one idea would be to educate our doctors. And the sad thing is, doctors actually get very little training on nutrition. The average medical student only gets about 20 hours of nutrition training. So medical students and physicians often feel ill-equipped to counsel their patients on diet. But things are changing. In 2007, the Harvard School of Public Health and the Culinary Institute of America taught the first Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives course. And basically, it's an annual 4-day course they hold in the Napa Valley. Similar to this, healthcare professionals, executives, nutritionists, chefs come, and basically they are all learning strategies for preparing health-promoting foods. They have a bunch of lectures, culinary demonstrations, tastings. And the whole thinking behind it is that if we as doctors practice healthful behaviors ourselves, then we're more likely to counsel our patients about this. There's a doctor named Dr. John LaPuma. He's an internist, and he wrote a book called Chef MD's Big Book of Culinary Medicine. And he's one of the first people to coin this term culinary medicine. And basically, in his words, he says culinary medicine is a new evidence-based field of medicine that blends the art of food and cooking with the science of medicine. And basically, the objective of culinary medicine is to empower the patient to take care of themselves with food as a primary care technique to help prevent and treat disease and restore well-being. In 2013, Tulane University, which is in New Orleans, opened the first culinary medical center at a U.S. medical school. And they actually opened a state-of-the-art teaching kitchen. And the medical students take cooking classes there, and then they go out into the community and they teach people how to cook healthy food. And since then, Tulane has actually licensed this curriculum to at least 7 other medical schools. So the word is spreading. Okay, so let's talk about healthy eating because it's such a confusing topic. What is it? You hear about all these fad diets out there, paleo, Atkins, gluten-free, vegan, raw. So what is the best way to eat? It's enough to confuse anyone. And the ironic thing is the more we worry about it, the more money we spend on it, the less healthy we seem to become. So I'm a fan of Michael Pollan. He is a writer that wrote this book, In Defense of Food, and he answers the question of what we should be eating in 7 simple words. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. So very easy. When he says eat food, what he means is eat real food, whole foods, not the processed packaged foods you find in the store. As he says, eat food that your great-grandparents would have recognized as food. not too much. That just means portion control, moderation. And mostly plants. Think of meat mostly as a side dish, not the star. This is another concept I think is really interesting. In 2000, there's a National Geographic journalist named Dan Buettner, and he set out to find the longest lived people on Earth and learn the secrets of what they were doing. And he identified five areas across the globe, and he called them blue zones. And these are the people with the greatest longevity in the whole world. These are people living into their 90s and even beyond 100. The first one they discovered was in Okinawa, Japan, and then they also found blue zones in Icaria, Greece, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya, Costa Rica, and a specific religious group in Loma Linda, California called the Seventh-day Adventists. And these communities have lower rates of chronic disease than Americans in just about every category. They have half the rates of dementia. And as you can see, they're scattered all across the globe. So there's diverse cultures and environments, traditions, but they all have commonalities, including what they're eating. So what are they eating? It's pretty simple. They're eating real, unprocessed foods, mostly plant-based. Lots of beans and other legumes like chickpeas, lentils, whole grains, wide variety of vegetables and fruit. They're eating meat, but smaller amounts. About 10% of their diet is meat. And they drink mainly water. Some coffee, tea, a little bit of wine. The other half of the equation is physical activity. They're engaged in regular physical activity. They don't smoke a lot. And also, there's a strong commitment to family in these communities and social and community engagement. So what's my philosophy? Very similar. I believe that you should follow a well-balanced diet with lots of nutrient-dense whole foods. Whole foods are foods that are with minimal processing. Limit the empty calorie foods. Those are foods that provide no nutritional value. Eat in moderation. Maintain an active and fulfilling lifestyle. And of course, enjoy delicious food, because I'm a foodie and I love to eat. So I think that eating is one of life's greatest pleasures. So I don't think you should deprive yourself. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about nutrition in childhood. So diabetes and obesity are on the rise in kids. Physical activity is dropping as screen time increases. That's time on electronic devices. Milk intake is down. Soft drink consumption is up. And whole grains, fruits, and vegetables are in short supply in children's diets. So when can you start introducing healthy food to your kids? Basically, as soon as they start eating, and which is around 6 months, which is when you introduce solid foods. Start training your baby's palates early, because dietary patterns are set early in life. So it's crucial to lay the foundation of healthy eating from the beginning. Couple of tips. You want babies to appreciate the real flavors of food. So don't give sugar before a year. If you want to sweeten their food, add fruit purees to things like yogurt and oatmeal. Don't give salt a year. If you want to season their food, again, add things like herbs and spices. Obviously, you want to stay away from things like cayenne pepper or something really hot, but within reason. Do try making your own baby food. It's actually really easy and it's very nutritious. And also, don't give reduced fat milk before 2 years, because babies need a high percentage of calories from fat for proper growth and development of the brain. You want to expose kids to a wide variety of nutrient-dense foods. 2 nutrients you have to keep in mind are iron and calcium, because babies are usually born with iron stores to last them about 4 to 6 months, and afterwards they have to get it from the diet. And calcium is essential for growth. 99% of it is stored in the bones and teeth. So after a year, milk is usually the main source, but there are also a lot of non-dairy sources of calcium, like leafy greens, dried fruit, canned beans. Juice. Now, kids love to drink juice. But the problem with juice is that it lacks the fiber that you find in whole fruits. So it's not very filling, so kids tend to overdrink it, and it replaces other nutritious food. Plus, too much juice can cause diarrhea. It can contribute to poor nutrition, obesity, and tooth decay, as we heard earlier. So you want to limit the amount of juice you offer. Offer water instead. And if you do offer juice, make sure it's 100% unsweetened. It doesn't have any sugar added to it. Getting into the toddler and preschooler years, they have notoriously unpredictable eating habits. At times, it might be hard to get your toddler or preschooler to even sit down long enough to eat a meal. So at this age, I like to give healthy snacks. They're a great way to balance out an uneven diet. So these are all the pictures in my lecture are pictures from my website. These are all my recipes. On the left, we have my lemon chia snack muffins. Kids love to eat little bite-sized foods with the yogurt glaze. In the middle are my pita pizzas. Really easy snack. You take a whole wheat pita, just put some tomato sauce, load it up with fresh vegetables, some cheese, stick it in the toaster oven. And on the right are my zucchini tots. These are a nutritious take on tater tots, which are a common American snack food made with fried potatoes. These are zucchini, and they're baked in the oven instead of fried. Picky eaters. Now, most kids are going to go through a picky eater phase around the age of 2. The key is to be patient and persistent. You may have to introduce a food 10 or 12 times before a child will accept it. Make food fun. So this is my daughter, Sienna. She's my sous chef. She's here tonight, and she loves to get in the kitchen with me. She's been doing it since she was a baby. These are some fun snacks for kids. These are my rainbow fruit kebabs on the left. Kids love colorful fruits. They love things on a stick. Obviously, you don't want to use a sharp stick if you have a young child. On the right are my tropical sunshine popsicles. These are Greek yogurt layered with mango puree and kiwi. And then on the bottom is just a fun snack I make with whole wheat toast and peanut butter and fresh fruit. You can make fun animal faces with it. If I put something like that in my daughter's lunchbox, I know it's going to come back empty at the end of the day. Healthy eating in childhood. A couple more tips. Take your kids grocery shopping with you. Let them choose their ingredients. Let them help you pack their lunch when you're getting it ready for the next day. Just basically get them in the kitchen with you, because if you get your children in the kitchen with you, there's a lot better chance that they're going to end up eating that food. And finally, eat together. You know, we're so busy these days, a lot of times we don't take the time to sit down and eat together, but we are the best examples for our kids. So if kids see mom or dad enjoying a healthy meal, it's more of a chance that they're going to enjoy it as well. It's also a fun bonding experience. Plus, once again, you're establishing healthy eating habits from an early age and putting your kids on the path to lifelong good health. It also fosters independence, and it teaches your kids an important life skill. You've heard the saying, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man a fish to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. Some more pictures of my daughter, Sienna. As you can see, I've been getting her in the kitchen with me since she was a baby. She's rolling out some dough to make homemade goldfish crackers in the top picture. On the bottom one, she's making zucchini fries. On the right, she's helping me make some vegetable quiches. And once again, the other half of the equation is always physical activity. So basically, you want less of the picture on the left and more of the picture on the right. We've got to get our kids outside and playing more. All right, so let's talk about adults. So the US publishes dietary guidelines, and they're updated every 5 years, and it basically reflects the most current research. It's the foundation for the government's nutrition policy and education. And the new guidelines focus on a healthy eating pattern this time, instead of a strict, rigid prescription. The visual representation of the guidelines used to be the food pyramid, and people thought this was very confusing. They didn't know what servings were. There were a lot of issues with it. So basically in 2011, they changed it to the one on the right, which is called My Plate. And people like this one a lot better. It's simple, it's consumer friendly. People have a lot easier of a time picturing what they should be eating because it's on a plate. And the main thing with this is half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. So load up your plate with fruits and vegetables, and then you should have smaller amounts of grains, protein, and dairy. Now with the grains, half of your grains should be whole grains, and with the protein, you don't want to just do meat-sourced protein, you want to do a wide variety of protein. So this is an example. This is my Southwest blueberry Cobb salad. So as you can see, it's a very colorful dish, and I've loaded up on the fruits and vegetables here. You've got avocado, grilled corn, blueberries. The whole salad is actually on a bed of salad greens, which you can't really see. And then I also have grilled chicken, but it's on the side. It's playing less of a role. There's also some cheese and some pepitos, which are pumpkin seeds. Another example, this is my butternut squash and black bean chili. Once again, I've loaded up here on vegetables like butternut squash, red bell peppers, black beans, avocado, and I do have meat in there. I use turkey, but once again, it's not as much as you would usually put in a bowl of chili. So let's talk about the Mediterranean diet, because this is really one of the diets that most, if not all, scientific organizations endorse because it's been shown to reduce the risk of heart disease and other chronic diseases like diabetes and some cancers. It's characterized by an abundant intake of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. Olive oil is the main fat. They eat moderate amounts of fish and poultry, daily intake of small amounts of yogurt and cheese, limited amounts of red meat and eggs, regular exercise, and a moderate amount of wine. What are the things you want to limit? You want to limit saturated fat, should be less than 10% of your calories per day. You want to limit trans fats to as low as possible. You want to limit your added sugars to less than 10% of calories per day. And this is the first time they've ever included a limit on added sugars in the dietary guidelines. And you want to consume less than 2,300 milligrams a day of sodium. And the recommendations by the American Heart Association are actually even more strict in that. They recommend less than 1,500 milligrams a day. And consume alcohol in moderation, which, by the way, the definition of that is 2 or less drinks a day for men, 1 or less drink a day for women. When you eat vegetables, you want to eat a variety of colorful vegetables. That's the key with veggies. Green leafy vegetables, red, orange, legumes, starchy vegetables. And variety is key because the different colored vegetables are rich in different types of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals. Those are plant-based compounds that confer health benefits. For example, dark green vegetables like kale and bok choy, rich in iron, calcium, folate. Orange vegetables are rich in beta-carotene, which gets converted to vitamin A in the body and is a powerful antioxidant. Starchy vegetables like corn, rich in B vitamins, complex carbohydrates. So variety is key. Same thing goes for fruits, lots of different colored fruits. And once again, you want to focus on whole fruits and limit the juice consumption. So I did a little research into some fruits and vegetables that are local here, and there are a lot of real superfoods here. We've got papaya, callaloo, ackee, breadfruit. Papaya is actually really interesting because it contains an enzyme in it called papain that breaks down protein. And that's actually one of the main ingredients used in meat tenderizers that you buy at the store. So if you're trying to prepare a particularly tough cut of meat, you could make a marinade with papaya in it, and that will make it tender. So let's talk about grains, because I've mentioned whole grains a couple of times. So the reason why everyone emphasizes whole grains is because whole grains are rich in vitamins, minerals, fiber, proteins, and healthy fats. The grains that you're getting at the grocery store when you're buying cakes and cookies and pies and things like that, those are made from refined grains, and those are higher in calories, fat, and sugar. So in order for something to be considered a whole grain, that means it must contain all 3 of the layers that were present in the original grain: the bran, the endosperm, and the germ. So there's 3 layers. When you make refined grains, such as white rice, white pasta, white flour, all-purpose flour, they remove many of these layers. So basically, you're stripping away the most nutritious part of the grain just to get a softer, more tender, more palatable product. So the key is when you're looking at ingredients in the grocery store, in the ingredient list, look for the word whole in the ingredient list. So if it says whole grain or whole wheat flour, it's a whole grain. If it just says something like enriched wheat flour, that's not a whole grain. So pass on that one. This is just a graphic to show you how many of the nutrients get stripped away between wheat flour and refined flour. So for example, you can see here vitamin E. This says 8%. Only 8% of the vitamin E is present in refined flour as compared to the original whole wheat flour. Fiber, only 25%, only a quarter of the original fiber is left in refined flour. And it's the same for many other nutrients. So what are some easy practical swaps? Next time you're at the grocery store, instead of white rice, try some other whole grains. Try brown rice, wild rice, quinoa, barley, bulgur, farro. They're all cooked the same way. They're all easy to cook. Instead of white bread, try whole wheat bread, muffins, bagels. Same thing with pasta. Try whole wheat pasta. Instead of sugary breakfast cereals, try whole grain breakfast cereals. You didn't hear? Like Frosted Flakes. Instead of potato chips, try popcorn. A lot of people actually don't know popcorn is a whole grain. Fiber. Fiber is so important, and we don't get nearly enough fiber. Good sources of fiber are things like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes. And our fiber intake is way below the recommendations. And this is because we're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, and we eat too many refined grains, once again. So I don't have the Caymans out here, but this is international fiber intakes. And the recommended range of fiber intakes is in the dotted lines here. And basically, no one's getting enough fiber. But the U.S., we're very low here. We're the second from the bottom in terms of fiber intakes. Only Brazil is below us. So why is fiber so good for us? It has so many health benefits. First of all, it helps you keep you feeling full. It keeps you regular. It keeps things moving along in your intestinal tract. It regulates your blood sugar. It lowers your cholesterol. It keeps the gut bacteria happy. They feed on it. Basically, fiber lowers your risk for many chronic diseases, including heart disease, obesity, diabetes, some cancers, and diverticular disease. So we definitely need to increase our fiber. Here are a few pictures from my site. On the left, we have my curried chickpeas and spinach with brown rice. All of those ingredients are good sources of fiber. In the middle are my sweet potato bowls with curried lentils. And on the right is my baked oatmeal. Oats are an excellent source of fiber, and I load it up with other fiber-rich ingredients like blueberries, apples, and walnuts. And if you keep the skin on the peel on the apple, that'll increase the fiber even more. So protein. So in contrast to the other things I talked about, protein is actually one of the few nutrients that we are getting enough of, but we're not necessarily getting the right types of protein. In industrialized countries, we get most of our protein from animal sources, so they're high in saturated fat and cholesterol. But the key is you want to incorporate a wide variety of protein foods. So yes, lean meat and poultry, but also seafood, eggs, legumes like beans and peas, nuts, seeds, soy products. These all are good sources of protein. When you do choose meat, try choosing lean cuts of meat, like skinless chicken breast, pork tenderloin, or sirloin steak to cut calories and saturated fat. All right, we have some delicious jerk pork on the left side here. And a lot of dishes like this with pork are flavorful because they use the fattier cuts of meat, like pork shoulder. And, in the culinary world, fat equates with flavor. But instead, you could try something on the right. On the right is a jerk rub pork tenderloin. Pork tenderloin is actually one of the leanest cuts of meat. It has a nutritional profile similar to a boneless, skinless chicken breast. So one of my culinary tips, spice it up. Use spice rubs and marinades to add flavor without having to add calories and fat. Herbs and spices also actually have a lot of health benefits. I'm sure a lot of you recognize the Scotch bonnet peppers on the screen because it's one of the key ingredients in jerk seasoning. And it's actually rich in lots of nutrients, including vitamin A, vitamin C, and phytochemicals. A couple more recipes. This is my spice chili rub salmon on the left, which I serve with broccoli and I throw on the grill. And on the right is my Caribbean spice chicken breasts, which I serve with the mango and avocado salsa. So both really easy, just quick spice rubs on the grill. Dinner's ready in like 10-15 minutes. Okay, so what are good protein-rich plant foods? Like I talked about, you want to include protein-rich plant foods like beans, peas, lentils, and chickpeas. These are also called pulses because these are rich in vitamins, especially vitamin E, minerals, fiber, and they're also lower in saturated fat than meat. In fact, pulses are so important, the United Nations actually declared 2016 the International Year of Pulses. Thought that was an interesting tidbit. Okay, so here are a couple plant protein recipes from my blog. The one on the left is my black bean and quinoa burgers. This is actually the #1 most popular recipe on my site, which I think is really interesting. It's a vegetarian recipe, but they're made with black beans, quinoa, and oats to hold it together. On the right are my edamame falafel. They're basically like little vegetarian meatballs made with pureed edamame, which are soybeans. And I bake them in the oven instead of frying them. Eat more seafood. We know that omega-3s have so many health benefits. Seafood is also a great source of lean protein, vitamins, and minerals. There's actually a recommendation for pregnant women to eat at least 8 to 12 ounces of low-mercury seafood per week because of the importance of omega-3s on the developing brain of the fetus. A couple more food pictures. These are my Caribbean fish tacos on the top. On the left are my salmon burgers with avocado, and on the right are my salmon teriyaki kebabs, which I pair with a fresh strawberry salsa. Another healthy eating tip, add some acid. It's amazing what a splash of vinegar, or a splash of lemon juice, or some hot sauce, how it can make the flavors in a dish pop. And it's a great way to add flavor to a dish without adding salt or butter or oil. This is my tilapia piccata. It's an easy fish dish, and it's made with a lemon sauce. Okay, let's talk about sugar, because sugar is always a hot topic. So you want to reduce your consumption of added sugars. Now, what are added sugars? Those are not the natural sugars found in foods like milk or fruit. These are sugars added to food and drinks during processing, manufacturing, or at the table. And 13% of the calories we consume in the US are from added sugars. And basically, they provide a lot of calories, but no nutrition. So what are the biggest sources of added sugars? By far, actually, the biggest one is drinks. This is soda, energy drinks, and sports drinks. Second biggest category, grain-based desserts. So that's things like cookies, pies, pastries. And then the third one, once again, drinks, fruit drinks. So we're drinking most of our sugar. And we know that high intakes of sugar can increase your risk of diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. Basically, your liver stores the glucose as glycogen, and once that capacity is exceeded, the liver converts excess glucose into fat. And unlike the liver, which has a limited storage space, our fat cells don't have any limit. And you actually want to be wary of fat-free products, because when you take the fat out of a product, you usually have to replace it with something else to get that similar creamy taste and texture, and usually this ends up being sugar. So a lot of fat-free products will have more calories than the original. So just read the labels on things. So some tips to cut down on added sugar. Instead of packaged sweets, try buying fresh fruit or frozen fruit or canned fruit, but make sure it's packed in water, not syrup. Instead of soda, try drinking sparkling water infused with fresh fruit, vegetables, or herbs. Use spices to enhance the flavors of food rather than sugar. And sweeten dishes like oatmeal, pancakes, and muffins, and yogurt with fresh fruit instead of syrup. These are my banana date muffins on the left. There's no sugar in them. They're just sweetened totally with bananas and dates. Dates are an excellent natural sweetener. You can add them to baked goods, smoothies, a lot of different recipes. On the right are my sweet potato pancakes. They have sweet potato puree in them. And on the bottom are my apple cardamom muffins, and I use applesauce in them to sweeten them and to keep them moist, cutting down on the oil and sugar. So you want to have less of this kind of drink and more of things like this. This is my blueberry limeade. It's really simple with lime juice, fresh blueberries. Okay, fat. Fat is probably one of the most misunderstood nutrients out there, but fat actually serves a lot of important functions in the body, and not all fats are bad. Unsaturated fats have a lot of health benefits. Monounsaturated fats are things like olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds, and we also have polyunsaturated fats, different oils, flax seeds, walnuts, and fish. A particularly important group of unsaturated fats are the omega-3 fats. These are considered essential fats because our body can't produce them, so we actually have to get them from the diet. And the best source is fish, but you can also find them in vegetarian foods like walnuts and flaxseed. And omega-3s have a wide variety of health benefits, most notably with the heart and the brain. They have reduced the incidence of cardiac death. They're crucial for neurologic development, especially in the fetus and young children, but they're also being investigated in prevention of Alzheimer's dementia. They reduce inflammation, they boost immunity, and people are studying them for everything, basically, things like allergies, eczema, arthritis. The fats you want to limit are saturated fat and trans fat, basically. Saturated fats are found in animal products, so things like pizza, cheese, milk, butter. They raise your total cholesterol and they raise your bad cholesterol, which is your LDL cholesterol. Trans fats are basically the worst type of fat. This is a man-made fat found in processed foods. Food manufacturers love trans fats because it's cheap and it makes products shelf stable. They can sit on a shelf for months and months and not get rancid, but they're really bad for our health. They not only raise total cholesterol and bad LDL cholesterol, but they also lower your HDL cholesterol, which is your good cholesterol. And they create inflammation and contribute to insulin resistance, which is a precursor to diabetes. So you want to replace the saturated and trans fat with unsaturated fat. So just to give you an example, this is my avocado grilled cheese sandwiches, and typical grilled cheese, really high in saturated fat from cheese, and it's usually fried in butter. So what I've done is I've cut the amount of cheese in half, and I replaced it with mashed avocado, which is, healthy monounsaturated fat. And when I fry them in olive oil. You can add like a little bit of butter just to have that nice flavor, but I fry it mostly in olive oil. And it's on whole grain bread. Healthy cooking tip. Use healthy cooking methods. So do things like grilling, roasting, and braising rather than deep frying, which uses a lot of oil. So on the left, we have some conch fritters, which are delicious, but they're deep fried. You could try instead a conch stew, like on the right, braised in a nice tomato-based sauce with some fresh herbs. You want to limit your salt, which can increase your blood pressure. Most people would be surprised that most of the salt we get in our diet is not from the salt shaker. It's actually salt that you find in packaged foods like canned soups, tomato sauce, salad dressing, beans, bread. So read the label and consider buying low sodium products. Nutrition during the senior years. So we know that aging is determined by a variety of things like heredity, lifestyle, and environmental factors. And with the exception of heredity, we actually have some control over the other factors. And we know that healthy dietary choices can help your body perform efficiently, control the rate of aging, and optimize your quality of life. And that's basically what we call aging successfully. Our nutritional needs actually change a lot as we age. We need fewer calories due to a loss of muscle mass and a decline in metabolic rate. So the challenge is to maintain a diet of nutrient-dense foods, but also maintain a healthy body weight by controlling calories and staying active. It gets harder as we age. You need an adequate intake of a lot of vitamins and minerals. Some adults may benefit from vitamin or mineral supplementation. A couple of ones to just mention, vitamin D and calcium are big because these are really important in preventing bone loss and osteoporosis, and we don't synthesize it or absorb it as well as we get older. Plus, there's not too many food sources of vitamin D, but just 10 to 15 minutes a day of sunlight can increase your vitamin D, because we actually synthesize vitamin D from the sun. Vitamin B12 is another one. Even though you might be getting enough of it, it might be inadequate because there's a specific factor in the stomach that's secreted called intrinsic factor, which you need to absorb vitamin B12, and that declines as we get older. And that can lead to a condition called pernicious anemia. And you want to maintain your lean muscle mass. This actually maintains your metabolic rate, it keeps your body fat low, and it maintains your body water. So it's very important. You want to include protein sources at all of your meals. Some of my favorite anti-aging foods, these are all foods that are rich in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals, healthy fats, fiber, probiotics. I like colorful fruits and vegetables, olive oil, nuts, seafood, Greek yogurt, dark chocolate, green tea. Those are just some of my favorites. Remember, people who live to 100, just like in the blue zones generally, gain little weight in adulthood. They eat many fruits and vegetables. They have healthy HDL cholesterol levels. They don't smoke or drink heavily. They stay active. They perform daily physical activity. And they challenge their minds. They have a positive outlook. They maintain close friendships. And they are or were married, many of them. We get to live to 100, yeah. All right, few last culinary tips. Keep a well-stocked kitchen, right? If you keep your kitchen stocked with healthy food, you're less likely to reach for junk food when you're hungry. Plan ahead. I'm a big proponent of menu planning. I take an hour or two at the beginning of the week to plan my meals for the rest of the week. That way, when I get home from work and I'm tired and I'm hungry, I'm not going to the fast food store. Shop the perimeter. This is a term we use. It means basically when you go to the grocery store, stock up on the more nutritious ingredients that are located around the perimeter of the grocery store. So these are things like fresh fruits and vegetables, frozen fruits, baked goods, whole grain breads, seafood. And buy less of the stuff in the middle of the store, which is all the packaged and the processed foods. And finally, cook at home. That's my biggest culinary tip, right? Because not only is cooking fun, it brings people together, it brings families together. When you cook at home, you have control over your ingredients. You know exactly what you're putting into your food. Plus, you'll feel like a rock star when your family and friends devour all of your culinary creations. So, in conclusion, armed with the proper tools, we have the power to take control of our health and fight chronic disease. And it starts in the kitchen, so get cooking. I thank you for your time and your attention.
Don't run away, Dr. Ruder. Everybody, another round of applause for the Foodie Physician. So, Dr. Ruder, on behalf of all of us here, we want to thank you very much for coming. A small token of our appreciation, which has been generously sponsored by Kirk Freeport. Thank you very much.
Oh, can I come every year?
I don't know about you guys, but I'm really hungry after watching that. My goodness. All right, so we have one more speaker standing between us and the very healthy, I'm sure, cocktail reception that is following. I also want to welcome Councillor Connolly. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know Councillor Connolly had a previous engagement and is working her way up the road, so I'm glad you were able to come. So tonight, our closing remarks are being brought by Dr. Samuel Williams, who is our Acting Chief Medical Officer with the Cayman Islands Ministry of Health. And he was born and raised in the Isle of Youth in Cuba and attended the highest institute of medical sciences in Havana, graduating as a medical doctor in 1994. He undertook his residency in clinic genetics at the National Institute of Genetics in Havana. Having registered as a general practitioner with the Medical and Dental Council in January 2006, Dr. Williams began his career at the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority General Practice Department in that January. Fast forward to 2012, and he was appointed as clinical head of the Department of General Practice at the Health Services Authority. To further his education, Dr. Williams completed a master's degree in public health with distinction with the University of Liverpool in 2013, and just 2 years later, he was appointed the Director of Primary Health Care and Acting Medical Officer of Health for the Cayman Islands, positions that he holds to this day. Additional training that he has completed includes population health management, non-communicable disease prevention and management, health promotion and education, policy development and implementation. Dr. Williams was also recently appointed as our acting Chief Medical Officer for the Cayman Islands. Please welcome Dr. Samuel Williams.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, all. In some corner of the room this evening, in the audience, I hear complete silence. I don't hear complete silence. And I can't help but to wonder if some person asking, who is he? Any confirmation? And you laugh at all. Well, as stated by Chief Officer Ahern and Dr. Samuel Williams Rodriguez, and the Director of Primary Health Care at the HSA, and the Acting Medical Officer of Health and Chief Medical Officer. All the current positions as a whole bear some significance to the theme of this, the 8th of the annual Healthcare Conference, and the role I play in executing my duties. Therefore, I'm delighted, pleased, really humble, that I have been requested to offer closing remarks for what has become one of the most prestigious events to be held in the Cayman Islands. Protocol has been established early on in the evening, and it's noted that this year's conference theme is food for thought, a term we often use in general conversation, but now, over the next 2 days, we propose and have a clear call to explore this phrase into scientific research-based action. Over the next few days, I certainly look forward to great ideas to be shared, newly established network, lots of energies and intellectual conversation. This with an end in mind to synthesize the information to be received, making the connection and taking action that is pointed and sincere, so that for some of us, if not all of us, we become true examples that illustrate the meaning that what we eat, we become. The coming together of such a spectacular group of professionals, like Dr. Ruder here today, will no doubt result in the texture and richness that has come to be expected of a healthcare conference in the Cayman Islands. I am excited about the coming days. I use this opportunity to thank our invited guests and panelists from near and far, our Chief Officer in the Ministry of Health, our Minister of Health himself, the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, the Premier of the Cayman Islands, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, the Deputy Governor, the Honorable Franz Manderson, residents, media, and all represented here today. We are grateful for your participation. You will make this experience special. I know you're all eager to share and network in the special cocktail reception that will commence immediately after this formal proceedings have closed. Please enjoy thoroughly. So, while you do enjoy this evening, please drink and eat responsibly. Good night.
Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. So we're ready now to move into the next phase of the evening, which is the cocktail reception, where I'm sure, as Dr. Williams has suggested, we will all eat and drink responsibly. I was very pleased to see that Dr. Ruder included 2 of my favorite foods, dark chocolate and moderate amounts of wine. That was good. Yeah. So tomorrow morning, we have a very full day. We'll be back here to start the first presentation at 8:30 a.m., but we will have breakfast available before that, so please make sure you come back. Breakfast will be sponsored by Jackson International, will be available from 7:45. Dr. Barsoom from Cleveland Clinic, Florida, will kick things off right at 8:30, talking about the impact of food on your health. We've got some amazing speakers lined up for tomorrow and some really fun, unique things that we haven't tried before. Tomorrow's breakout sessions are going to be nutrition in action. Minister mentioned them briefly in his remarks. We're going to have farm to table with the Department of Agriculture and the Ritz-Carlton chefs, and we're going to have healthy eating at home with Maureen Cubbin and Bon Vivant. We're also going to have some chef demos and sampling going on throughout the morning, and you'll have an opportunity to sign up for those when you get here tomorrow. And one of the things that you're going to get tomorrow from all of these fantastic chefs are some great ideas to take home and try at home. So the interactive cookery sessions in the culinary studio, that was really hard to get out, will be at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock tomorrow morning with Maureen Cubbin and Bon Vivant. And on Saturday at the same time, we'll have Chef Artemio from the Brasserie. So you will need to sign up for those, and space is limited, and you can sign up for those at the registration desk. Don't forget to stop by the Cayman Health booth before lunchtime tomorrow to sign up for a chance to win a limited edition Fitbit 2 charge. And please make sure that you stay and enjoy the very healthy snacks and beverages that we will have on offer in the cocktail reception this evening, which has been very kindly sponsored by Ironshore Pharmaceuticals. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving another round of applause to all of our speakers. And I'll look forward to seeing all of you at the cocktail reception and bright and early tomorrow morning for breakfast. Have a great evening.